What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name's CJ. This is Out of Bounds DFS. In today's video, we're going to be looking closer at Monkey Knife Fight, MKF for short. They've got three very interesting fantasy projection-based games for the NBA slate tonight. We're going to take a look at all three of those and see if maybe we can help you make some better decisions when playing on MKF tonight. If this is your first time to the channel, welcome. Here on Out of Bounds DFS, we talk all things single-player daily fantasy sports. So if that's something that you're into, whether it be prize picks, whether it be Monkey Knife Fight, or others, hit the subscribe button, turn on notifications, smash the like button, and share this video with the entire world as we continue our way to 500 subscribers. You guys have been amazing. So without further ado, we'll be using Roto Grinders, and it's preloaded with the FanDuel projections because FanDuel scoring is the same as Monkey Knife Fight, MKF, making this an apples to apples, one-to-one, easy comparison for us over there. So let's take a look at their first game that they offer on MKF. Now this one's called More or Less. It's very similar to Prize Picks in terms of you're given a fantasy point projection, and then you have to choose the over or the under, or more or less in this case. So their 8 out of 8 pick play that you can choose here, which is their highest, biggest game that you can do in this more or less game. If you get 8 out of 8 right, guys, this is insane. 100 times your entry fee. So, you know, that's huge money. I mean, that is like winning a GPP on DraftKings or FanDuel. If you get all 8 of these picks right, guys, you're going to be sitting very, very pretty. So let's start here at the left-hand side. We've got Giannis Antetokounmpo, who is projected on Monkey Knife Fight for 55.5. He's facing the Phoenix Suns tonight. Let's take a look at Roto Grinders and see where they have Giannis Antetokounmpo projected at the moment. So at the moment, 53.66 would be his projection, making this what looks to be an easy less pick for us. Giannis Antetokounmpo going less than 55.5 or under 55.5. So that's our first pick. The next guy they have up on the board is Luka Doncic. He's facing off against the Atlanta Hawks tonight. His projection is 54.5 over on MKF. So once again, we'll go back to Roto Grinders here. We'll tap into the point guard position, and they've got him projected at 53.82. So 53.82 on Luka Doncic would put him as a less pick, perhaps. And then the next guy on the board is Nikola Jokic, Joker, facing off against the Cleveland Cavaliers. 54.5 is his projection on Monkey Knife Fight. So if we click back over to Roto Grinders and we filter out all positions, just looking at the center position, they've got him projected up at 55.82. So 55.82 is more than 54.5. So for this video, we're going to choose more for Nikola Jokic, the first more pick out of the 8 that we need to pick here. Next guy up is James Harden. Of course, no Kevin Durant tonight for the Brooklyn Nets, so James Harden should have a increased role here for the Nets. His projection on MKF is 54.5, so let's filter out everything except for shooting guards. They got him at 54.48, so just going right off of that, 54.48 would put him slightly under the 54.5. This is a close one. This is going to be probably the make or break pick out of this 8-pick lineup for this 100x your buy-in. But let's just stick with Roto Grinders and the numbers here. The 54.5. This would be a slight less pick over on MKF. The next guy up is Kawhi Leonard. He is projected for 51.5 points on MKF. So if we take a look over here on Roto Grinders, our preferred daily fantasy tool, they've got Kawhi Leonard at 50.21 going against the Minnesota Timberwolves tonight. 50.21. So that would lead us to select less on Kawhi Leonard, taking the under on the 51.5 points. The next guy on the board is LeBron James, who's been playing really well as of late. His projection on MKF, 50.5 points. So Once again, we head over to Roto Grinders. We've got the small forward position selected. They like LeBron to go for 48.06 points, which would put him well under the 50.5 if our projections are correct. So we're looking pretty good so far. We've got a bunch of lesses on the board, only one more on the board in Nikola Jokic. We've got 2 more players to go. Anthony Davis is the next one, another Los Angeles Lakers superstar. His projection's 48.5 points as they take on the Oklahoma City Thunder, who will be shorthanded. No SGA tonight. This game does have some blowout potential. Something to definitely keep in mind when picking these overs and unders. On Roto Grinders, they've got AD going for 46.39. 46.39 is less than 48.5. So a bit of a trend here. It seems like Monkey Knife Fight, MKF, is a bit high on most of these guys. But the final person, that final player we have to talk about is Bradley Beal, 47.5 fantasy points. The Washington Wizards are at home versus the Toronto Raptors. His projection, 47.5 points. Let's head over to the shooting guard position. They've got Bradley Beal at 44.12, which is a clear and obvious less play, which fits along with the theme of today's more or less picks on MKF. As you can see, everybody is a less pick except for Nikola Jokic. So very interesting there how they have that game set up. It's very similar to prize picks. And then once you have your 8 picks selected, well, then you just choose how much money you want to put out there on this. So in my case, I'm a low roller. I would put $5, let's just say. So $5 times 100, well, that would lead me to win a potential $500 on just a $5 entry. So guys, let's do it. Let's see if Roto Grinders is right. Why not? I had $5 in my account. Boom, we're submitting it. Maybe it works out, maybe it doesn't. This is my first time playing this game mode. This is my first time playing 8 picks on Monkey Knife Fight, but we're going for it. 5 pick for $500. Wish me luck. Now, let's move on to the next game that they offer here, which is called Rapid Fire. And basically in Rapid Fire, you have to select between head-to-head matchups for different players on the NBA slate. So the first matchup we have based on fantasy points, once again, is Giannis Antetokounmpo of the Milwaukee Bucks going against Luka Doncic. Now, they've also given Luka Doncic a bonus of 1.5 fantasy points. So whatever you pick here, Luka will get a bonus. So that's something to keep in mind. It kind of makes you want to favor picking Luka Doncic here. But before we do, let's go back to the projections real quick and compare these two players. Starting with Luka Doncic, he is projected at 53.82 points. So if we add another 1.5 points, let's just round this up, call it 54. That'd put us at about 55.5 points over on Monkey Knife Fight. Now, clicking over to Giannis Antetokounmpo, he's at 53.6. So 53.6 versus the 53.82, plus we're getting a bonus on Luka of 1.5 points. Well, I think this makes it very easy for us to take Luka Doncic over Giannis Antetokounmpo in that head-to-head. The next head-to-head matchup we have is Nikola Jokic versus James Harden. Another interesting matchup because, as I mentioned before, Kevin Durant's out for Brooklyn. Jokic, he's getting a bonus of 0.5 fantasy points. So they're giving him a half-point bonus here. Let's just see if we can find an edge between these two guys. James Harden, over on Roto Grinders, is projected for 54.48 points. So right around 54.5 points for the beard. Now, if we go to Nikola Jokic, he's projected for 55.82 points. Plus, he gets a half-point bonus, which puts him over 56. So he was already projected to be the highest scorer out of these two players, plus a half-point bonus. Well, that leads me to think that Nikola Jokic can get it done here in this head-to-head fantasy points matchup with James Harden. Now, the next guy on the board, guys, are Kawhi Leonard and LeBron James, two of the best small forwards in the NBA. Now, Kawhi Leonard, facing the Minnesota Timberwolves. As we mentioned before, LeBron James facing the Oklahoma City Thunder, who are very short-handed without SGA in the lineup. But they're giving LeBron a 1.5 point fantasy bonus here. So let's go back to Roto Grinders. Look at the small forward position. Kawhi Leonard, 50.21. 50.21. And right below him, LeBron James at 48.06. So if you add that 1.5 fantasy point bonus to LeBron, well, that puts him at 49.5 and some change, which is still less than Kawhi Leonard. On top of that, this game does look to be a blowout, but so does the LA Clippers Minnesota game. So tough one. But I think even with the bonus, because they're trying to maybe potentially lay a trap here with this LeBron James bonus, I'm still going to pick Kawhi Leonard in this situation. Now, next matchup has LA Lakers power forward Anthony Davis versus the Washington Wizards shooting guard Bradley Beal. Now, let's go back and check again on these two guys and see what their projections are looking like. We got Bradley Beal at 44.12 fantasy points, 44.12 versus Anthony Davis, who is at 46.39. Now, I'm no rocket scientist, no genius, but it sounds like to me, or it looks like to me, that Anthony Davis will outscore Bradley Beal tonight, who is at 44. So we got 44 once again versus 46. So let's take Anthony Davis in this head-to-head matchup to score more points than Bradley Beal. Now, last but not least, we've got Zach LaVine, who has a half-point fantasy bonus. Chicago Bulls swingman versus Kyrie Irving, who has a finger injury. He might be a little banged up. I don't know if that's going to affect his ability to score or shoot. Maybe he turns into the passer and James Harden's more of the scoring option tonight because he's dealing with that finger injury. But let's look at these two players and figure out which one comes out ahead in a head-to-head matchup. We got Zach LaVine on the board at 44. If we add in that half point to the 44, well, that puts him at 44.5. 44.5 for Zach LaVine. Now, going over to point guard, Kyrie Irving projected for 45.32. 45.32 versus 44.5. Well, that would lead us to believe that Kyrie Irving, despite this half-point bonus that Zach LaVine's getting tonight on MKF, Kyrie Irving may end up outscoring him. So if you get 5 out of 5 correct, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, if you get them all right, you get 20 times your buy-in. Huge potential for winnings here on MKF versus Prize Picks. Prize Picks, the most you can win there is 10 times your buy-in. So loving this format as well. I'm glad that I've decided to talk more about Monkey Knife Fight. So then you would just choose your dollar amount, $2 through $100, your choice, and you would receive 20x on whatever you choose to play. So that does it for Rapid Fire. There's one more game mode that's based on fantasy points, and this one is called Stat Shootout. Stat Shootout is interesting because you can choose from 3 different cumulative total fantasy points projections. And you have to basically draft 3 players that will go over that fantasy projection. So for the first example here, the goal is 176.5 fantasy points. If you get it right, you end up with 1.5x whatever you enter, your entry fee. The next goal is 185.5 fantasy points. If you get that right, you double up, meaning if you go over 185.5 fantasy points with your 3 players that you draft, then you'll get double your money. And then the last one, we're going to go big or go home here. 194.5 fantasy points. If you get that right, if you exceed 194.5 fantasy points, you'll get a triple up, 3 times your entry fee on Monkey Knife Fight. So how are we going to get here? Well, that's a good question. We're going to have to find the 3 highest projected point scores on the slate. So let's go all positions and let's filter and sort by the 3 highest scores. That would be Nikola Jokic, James Harden, Luka Doncic, with some consideration going to Giannis Antetokounmpo as well. All 4 of these guys rather 53 or more fantasy points on the board tonight. So does it let us select all three of those guys? Let's see. Here's Giannis Antetokounmpo. That's one out of the 4 top projected scores. Do we have Jokic, Harden, and Doncic on the board? Well, there's Harden, and there's Jokic, and there's Doncic. But you can only pick 3. So we would, based on the Roto Grinders projections, leave Giannis Antetokounmpo out in the cold, although it is close. It is close. You've got Giannis at 53.66, Luka at 53.82, but Luka gets a slight edge here. So our top 3 players that we would draft based on Roto Grinders projections, which uses the FanDuel scoring system, would be James Harden, Nikola Jokic, and Luka Doncic. So it's as simple as that. You select those 3 guys. They are now in your lineup, and basically we just now have to sit back and watch them play basketball and hope that the 3 of them combine for more than 194.5 fantasy points. Now, if they do, then we will triple up whatever our buy-in is. Now, you can risk anywhere from $2 up to $250. So some pretty good payouts on the board there. Now, if we add up their fantasy projections real quick, so we went Jokic, Harden, and Doncic. Let me pull up a calculator. Calculator app coming in handy. All right, so we've got 55.82 plus 54.48 plus 53.82 would put us at 164.12, guys. 164.12, which would be way short of this 194.5. It's a hard number to hit. That's why I wanted to show you the math on that. You have to hope that these 3 guys have ceiling games, meaning that they exceed this average or this projection of 55, 54, 53. I mean, these guys would need basically like, I don't know, over 60 points each on average, 60 something points on average in order to exceed that. So if you think the 3 of these guys go for a ceiling game and exceed their fantasy projections, well then stick with it. Ride James Harden, Nikola Jokic, and Luka Doncic. But in my opinion, out of the 3 games that I've shown you today, between Stat Shootout, between Rapid Fire, and between More or Less, I think that this one here, the Stat Shootout, I think the Stat Shootout seems to be the hardest one to hit, and it also pays out the least. So that's going to do it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed my very first exclusive Monkey Knife Fight MKF fantasy projections video. If you guys like this video and you want to see more of it, definitely hit the thumbs up. It lets me know that you're digging what I'm doing. And subscribe if you haven't yet. Turn on notifications. I'll be trying to do one of these videos for you every single day along with my regular Prize Picks videos. And until the next time we see ya, this is CJ for Out of Bounds DFS. We'll catch you in the next one. Good luck tonight. Peace.